And we're live. Welcome to you, the viewer. Welcome to our fantastic panel right here on the side. It's the after dram. It means it's time to unwind. It's time to put your feet up, grab a dram, two or three. In some cases, I got a third one in there, and just getting ready for me. And it's time to relax more than anything else. Quick recap. Cheryl, Dave, Drew, Kent, Nick, Sheila, and I have had a deep dive session into lessons 7 and 8. So Scotland and Japanese whiskey. Love this book right here, The Complete Whiskey Course with the author Robin Robinson. This guy right here, and this guy right up top, right there. That's him. It was informative. It was entertaining. It was fun. And it's just begun. So let's do another round of introduction. Please tell us what's in your glass now. And we're going to go in the same order. Robin, we'll start with you and go around the bend.
Well, I am still drinking the things I drank in the first session, and it is a Talisker.
Yummy.
Single malt Scotch whiskey, Distiller's Edition, in Amoroso barrels, double matured. And I'm also drinking a Teketsuru Pure Malt from the Nika Distillery.
And we recognize that one. Cheryl, you're up.
Hi, my name's Cheryl. You can find me on social media at Cheryl's_1. And I'm still finishing up with my Nika from the barrel, but I'm moving on into the old Yushi as well.
Nice. Good job. And Dave, you're up.
Hey, it's Yukon Dave working on his bag of whiskey. Bag o' whiskey, I guess.
Opened any of them yet?
Yeah, I'm just finishing up. I'm on the last sample that Drew and Sheila gave me. It's the Holyrood Smoky.
Okay.
When I'm done that, I'm going to finish this bottle off.
The Tyrconnell. Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Back to Irish. Back and forth to everything. Kent, all you.
Hi, my name is Kent. I go by Whiskey Ass on all forums. I'm still finishing up my Robbie Burns. We're doing a 25-day countdown to Robbie Burns Day. And there's just a little bit left, but boy, is it delicious. And I'll try and figure out what it is. Yeah, before 9 o'clock, I have to put my guess in. But I'm also moving over into the pure malt.
And what, Nika? That's a Nika, right?
The Nika,
yes.
Yep.
See, I do recognize some, just not. And I should have done Drew before Kent, so my alphabetical thing off. But you're up there.
I also have opened my 16 of the Robbie Burns Advent Calendar to figure out what it is. But I've left Scotland and Japan, and I poured myself a dram of Booker's.
You're still in,
So I've got Booker's Bourbon.
Nice.
2 of 2019.
To the States now. Nice.
Yeah.
Nick, you're up.
No.
Hey everyone, I'm Nick. I go by Black Cat Whiskey. I'm working on the last of my cocktail, and I have poured actually Pig's Nose, so I'm working through that now too.
Excellent. Good job. Sheila?
I am also trying to figure out what's in Robbie Burns' calendar, so I'm probably not going to have time to post my guess, but I definitely feel that there is a whole bunch of cherry Christmas cake in here.
Ooh, so all sherry for you. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then there's me, and I'm still doing the same thing. So I've got the Nika, and that's almost done. And I've got the grain from Cameron Bridge, because we talked about the coffee stills, and we talked about, so grain 4 from FMWS. 4 is Cameron Bridge. 10, it was the 10th barrel that they bought from them. So I've got that. We're all doing the same thing. So we're doing this. And I haven't tasted it yet. I'm going to let it settle. But I get, and I told you guys before, it's odd, just hops. Centennial hops from my garden is all I smell on this. I haven't tasted it yet. So I'll get to the coffee cake, I'm sure. I won't be able to guess tonight, but it's fun. And just as a note, I don't think anyone on this panel's guessed one of them right yet. This is Nick's
tried.
So Nick would know, but we haven't guessed. And it's funny because you always revert back to the things that you've had in the past. And we've all had a substantial amount of whiskey, let's say. But the ones that we've had, because Robin, when we actually did this, Nick asked for a bottle and she asked for, I think it was $50 to buy a really special bottle at the end and to pay for the little sample stuff. So I gave something that I had bought that I thought was unique, but I'd never had. And I think a lot of people might have done the exact same thing. You gave a bottle that was unique that you just never had. So I can't even relate. When mine came up on day 3, I didn't know it was mine. And I gave it a really good compliment. I said, thanks to whoever gave this one, was fantastic. And it was me. So I was complimenting myself.
Nice.
So, Nick, online, we're going to say thank you very much for doing that for us, because it's really fun. I got behind a couple days, but I'm all caught up. I'm good. Robin, let's get back to you, buddy. We talked about Japanese whiskey and trying to find a special taste to a Japanese whiskey and see if we could actually say it was fruity. I said floral, you said fruity and light. Now we're going to get back to other generalizations, because I know you don't like them, or you say that on there, about the 5 whiskey regions. You state, and I believe rightly so, that one distillery would say that there, and I have a quote for this, but I won't put it up, whiskey is distinct from that of the distillery across the street or up the river, let alone sharing a style with an entire region. So that's on page 187. But I'm going to say, panel and Robin, will you concede that there's a time and place to make generalizations about the styles of the 5 regions, that it might help people figure Scotch out? Newcomers, let's say. So I'm throwing that out there. And I'm drinking whiskey. Go ahead.
I don't know anymore. Like 20 years ago, maybe, discounting Highland and their weird ones through there, but like 20 years ago, Bayside had its little area, Campbellton had its 2 distilleries, Isla, if you discount 1 or 2 of the distilleries, you might have been able to. I don't think you can anymore.
I think it was more of a case of you didn't know any better.
That's possible too. The ones that I was exposed to 20 years ago, that's possible too.
Okay.
But
and Nick says marketing BS. I know her position on it, so that's good. It's
like I said,
right?
20 years ago you didn't know any better. It was marketing.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to say is, because, and you guys have been to my post Festivus, and the post Festivus I organized for people. Sorry, so Festivus being the 23rd of December. I always did a party like 27, 28, 29. But I did this for people who knew nothing about whiskey. It's just friends I wanted to introduce into the whiskey thing. And we went through all of the regions. It took us 6 years because I did 2 on Space Side. But I would show them what I thought was a stereotypical taste of the region. And you guys have seen McClellan's, right? McClellan's got Isla, Speyside. It's got all the different regions. So you try and that's what they said that the region is. That would be a flavor for it. I tried to do the same thing, and then I showed them something completely different. But it was still me focusing on a base, something that I needed people to hold on to. And I don't know if it worked, because right at the very end, the only thing I think I taught my friends that didn't get into whiskey was not to shoot it around me. Don't shoot that freaking whiskey in front of me. So that was it. And they work too. It's like, and I give them like 2 of them and some really good whiskey. And it's like, bang, bang. It's like, did you taste a fucking thing that you just, it's like $30 in your mouth, so head. And you tasted nothing. Anyway. I try to be nice to my friends, but I don't think they learned anything. So any other comments before we shift this over to Robin?
That's why you have blended whiskey. It's for your friends that don't know better and that shoot your whiskey. You bring the blends out for them.
All right. The pig's nose I would do, just not the Cuddy Stark. Well, I would, with the people shooting it, take this and go outside. Meet you by the fire in 20 minutes or something. But, you know. Robin, is there a time and place ever for limiting what people think they might taste from a region?
Is there a time and a place to actually give to bullshit people? And that's really the question. Because so Kat, you're I think you're on the right you're on the right track. It's not really marketing bullshit. It's just lazy marketing. the original the original idea of the 5 regions of Scotland it was brilliant. It was a brilliant, here's people who know nothing about this country, and we're going to be making these single malts from different parts of this country. Let's take these sort of like tourist tax political divisions that we use, and let's market them.
Yep.
And let's put one whiskey in each one of those, and we'll introduce everybody to them. And for a 1980s, and Drew hit this, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, it made perfect sense. It made perfect sense to do that. I mean, who the hell knew where Scotland was? Who knew anyone who was a Scot? No one did. So, so it was brilliant. But then it became the default, and that's the problem. Then it became marketing, because nobody actually, and this is one thing about the Scotch whiskey industry and about Scots, is that once they get a thing in their heads, they don't want to get it out because tradition,
Yeah.
And they don't want to get rid of it. And so everybody then just reinforces everybody else. The next thing you know, you go up to the Scotch, you go up to the SW. Yeah, right. There you go. Right. You go up to the SWAs.
Yeah. And I got into the, this is where I figured out I liked Oban. But this was a good, because they gave you 5 of these. Actually, I think I got 7.
It made perfect sense. It made perfect sense. And then, then you go up to the SWA website, and they're now actually promoting the 5 regions of Scotland. It's kind of what, do you fucking know better? And then someone, and then it's like, well, is it 4 regions or is it 5? And then how the hell did Campbellton get its own fucking region? They only had 1 distillery left.
Mm-hmm.
And then wait a minute, are the islands, is that another region? And it's kind of like, dude, I mean, stop. So yeah, the whole idea of malts. Think about this. Now think about this. Why were malts made? Malts were made to bring distinctiveness to blends. That's exactly why.
Sure.
Have you guys seen the map?
We've seen a lot of different maps. Which one are you referring?
Yeah, which map?
This was the map that I could not put in the book because my publishers would not. They wouldn't publish anything that they couldn't get
copyright for
the rights to,
yeah.
And because the company no longer exists. And quite honestly, if people saw me throwing this map around, I could actually be, I could be killed in a dark alley.
Okay.
So,
Probably should do that.
but I'm going to show you something here, and as soon as I bring it up, then we'll do a
share screen.
Yeah.
Do it.
But
Let's hope it works.
So I agree with that.
This is the ultimate proof, right? That okay. Let's see. Bring up that.
As you're saying
All right,
that,
I've got this. So if you give me the opportunity to share this screen.
Absolutely. So bottom right in the middle.
Okay. Tell you what, actually, let me put it up on the second. Let me put it up on my other monitor here, and it'll be easier to shut.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask the panel, because you mentioned in there, you talk about the fingerprints. So you talk about fingerprints on page 191, the bases of certain blends. Yeah. And I was telling people this would be kind of cool for me to try to memorize, because there's tons of information. There's things that I just want to know where it is. Oh, we lost them. Well, I'm still going to ask you guys. He's going to pop back up. He said, Robin says Dewars is Aberfeldy and Gallicky. Shivitz is Strathisla. Johnny Walker is Cardi Morklack and Lag. Is there any that you guys know of that are kind of in that same stream? So what's McAllen? Is McAllen's Highland Park? Sorry, this is
McAllen at Highland Park.
That's famous grouse.
And famous
And
grouse.
if you add Ventura to it, then you get the black grouse.
Yeah.
This is the one I have on my wall with the different reads. So distillery. It's hard to do with this reflection, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
But this is my map that I it's an old one. Robin, do you have that map up?
It's ready to go. So all you have to do is
Click on it. Done. Here we go.
Oh, geez.
Stop. No.
Okay.
I think you have to bring it into the stream.
There we go. It looks like a metro system.
Absolutely. Now, that's the real map of Scottish whiskey right there. Because this was the blender's map from UDV.
Okay. And I thought you were going for, and I was going to bring something else up. No, I'd like to keep that there for a second. Can you explain
Now,
what we see?
Dolph, let's just keep this here. Okay.
Yeah, and
Let's
talk about
just,
it.
yeah. Let's just keep this here and let's understand why the idea of 5 regions of Scotland don't make any goddamn sense.
Okay.
All right.
Go for it.
So what this is, what's the reason for having a malt? You have a malt so you can actually bring distinctiveness to blends. All right. So everyone, otherwise, why not just make the same whiskey over and over again? Okay. That means each one of these distilleries brings something absolutely distinctive in order for the blenders to use them. Okay. So when the blenders, and you can see that this is actually a pre-80s map here as well. When the blenders are then looking to determine how do I actually create an organizing structure around creating my recipe, right? Well, I'm going to take the malts and I'm going to put them into different groupings. All right. And as you can see here, this is colored by group 1, group 2, group 3, all the way down to group 9. Each one of these is a completely distinctive malt. And that means this, that when I run out of Glenmorangie, I can go get some Speyburn or Imperial, and that will satisfy my needs inside of my recipe.
Okay, let's do this with one of them, so you can kind of explain one for us.
Okay,
so
well, I was looking at the
red.
I was looking at the yellow. Look at the yellow circle.
Yeah, and that intersects a whole bunch of other places as well.
Right.
So what's the intersection? Is that where it can be replaced by something else?
No.
Okay.
The line. So if you think of this as a metro map, each one of these are stops. Okay. Once I actually, if I run out of a stop, I just go down to another stop. Right.
Okay.
So, for example, the yellow line in the middle, if you look at the key down below, it says Group 3, Medium A.
Yeah.
Now, there's a whole couple pages of what Medium A, Medium B, Light, Medium Light, what this all means from a blender's vocabulary. But this is essentially the visual structure of the blender's vocabulary. Now, look at the long. You see the pink line that starts with Belle Blair on the left and ends with Glengarry on the right hand side. It kind of cuts right through the middle. Goes left to right. One. Okay. Yeah. All right. What's next to Belle Blair?
Balvenie.
Balvenie. Now, if you've been to Dufftown, what's right across the street from Balvenie? Its sister distillery, Glenfiddich. And where's Glenfiddich? It's down there at the bottom of the yellow circle. They're not even in the same category, and they're right across the street from each other in the heart of space. So you see, right? You see how this is different. Why isn't Talisker then considered an Islay whiskey, other than the fact it's not an Islay? It's pretty much Islay-esque, right? So is Highland Park.
Yeah, explain that little branch off for the Talisker. So everyone else, if you look at the bottom,
I don't. I've got the key on other pages.
Okay.
Right? And I'll be honest with you. Look, a group 9, it says Talisker lightly peated down on the bottom. You see the key on the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, lightly peated. Right. So this will kind of give you an idea. And look, this is Bunnahabhain. This is peated Bunnahabhain here too. Right. So that's right there with Kalila, Beaumont, right? Lefroy, Lagavulin, right? Bunnahabhain was peated at this point. Right, because remember, Bunnahabhain was really it was one of the hearts of Black Bottle blend.
The old Black Bottle blend, not the new.
It actually still is for the new Black Bottle blend, but the new Black Bottle blend
absolutely right.
It's not a heat anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like the new Black Bottle blend. I find it hideous, and people that promote it, I just don't like it at all.
Well, I mean, the old Black Bottle blend, there was really nothing like it. That was a spectacular, and thank God I bought 3 or 4 bottles before they ended it.
Did you?
But you can see, you see the difference here. You see when you start looking at actually what how the malts are considered by the blenders. The blenders, and this is really what it's all about. This is the economics of Scotch whiskey, right? 92% of all the whiskey that comes out of Scotland comes out as a blend. This is the engine right here, right? So
I could geek out on this all night. It's freaking fantastic. I love it.
And this is it. This is the truth. This is the real truth of Scotch whiskey right here.
Okay.
Right. And that's why anytime you see any of that,
it's beautiful. It's beautiful and makes me think I want to drink Scotch. Good.
Yeah. So that's the truth. I mean, and there's a lot of truths. It's like, the truth behind, the terroir thing is just laziness again. Most marketing is actually lazy. Marketing can be good. Marketing is important. In Japan, marketing is an integral unit of that Kaizen circle, right? But here, it's people who graduate with degrees that are useless, and they've never met a customer.
But there is a
segment of our
population.
They look at customers in terms of demographics and statistics, and profiles. So
there is a portion of our population that don't want change either. They want to see the same thing over and over and over again too. So it is laziness, but you still have to teach your customer a little bit, I think.
Well, that's 2 different things, Dolph. That's 2 different things. As a matter of fact, teaching your customer is the most unlazy thing in the world, right? If you are literally teaching your customer. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. There's a whiskey out there called Kayo. It's a Japanese whiskey. All right. Now, I don't know if they got any Canadian distribution or not, but it's decent. But I know that it's mostly filled with Scotch and Irish whiskey that's been imported to Japan, and then processed in Japan with the water and blended.
Okay.
Now, the guy who was pitching the Kayo to me was telling me all this whole fucking bullshit story about 10 years ago. I started putting barrels away. Fuck you. You did not. I know you didn't. Nobody did. This guy was not that prescient to have like, I think we're going to run out of whiskey. I'm going to go put some barrels. No, you did not. Bullshit.
You were selling everything you had.
Yeah. Now, had he just come to me and said, Japanese whiskey is really all about how the Japanese think about what the whiskey is. And so this may actually have some whiskeys because, when I was at Middleton, I'm standing there in the middle. When remember last week, I was telling you about like those crazy mash tuns I told you about that were the enclosed mash tuns. And we're standing there over the mash tuns and we're just talking about, he's doing this because they did this because the volume that's coming out of Middleton is just so massive. It's just massive amount of volume. And that's when he admitted to me, most of this is actually going to Japan.
All right.
Most of us going to Japan. So that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm not burned into provenance. It doesn't have to come from that place. It's what you do with it at the end. But so had the guy, just said that, I said, well, we can make a compelling story out of that.
Or took the time to actually teach you about it, and then you have kind of a link to it as well, because you have that background knowledge, right?
Then you've got then you can teach that story about how the Japanese think about whiskey and why they don't have laws like we have laws, because they have all of these other cultural things that keep them that keeps it in agreement, and that's a whole cool story. But no, he had to come up with this bullshit. And this is the 5, this is the 4, or I don't know how many, 4 or 5 regions. That's the same. That's the whole thing. So it's kind of like, Drew hit it 20 years ago. You maybe had needed that because here's a map right here. Okay, right. So it's from up there and it's not from over there, right? Okay, I get it. Because I've never been to this place before, so how the hell do I know? I mean, how many Americans know how many provinces there are in Canada, right? Or even where the fuck Alberta is, right? So that means, if you're going to come down and market it in the United States, yeah, you're probably going to have to bring a map of Canada and say, yeah, here's the province here, and this is actually a territory, and
see Montana. Go up.
Huh? Yeah, right. Or go straight up to Montana.
If you know where Montana is,
right? Yeah, just go. Yeah, we're close.
Well, that's how I explain it to Americans. We're 501 miles north of Great Falls, Montana.
But how else do you do it then, Robin? So you've taught people, you've taught like beginner groups. I started with this one as well, Whiskey Classified, and we've seen these different things before where they're going from one side to another, and you're trying to explain it to people so they can taste stuff. So for me, and I've gone beyond it, and I've done the tasting wheels. We've talked about this as well. How do you help people?
Wait a minute. Here's the question, Dolph. Why do you need to?
I'm a teacher, man, and I want my friends to know and love it as much as I do.
I get that. No, what I'm asking is, why do you need to classify it into 5 regions? Why is that important? It's not important. It's
not anymore. It was at the beginning because that's what I clung on to, and it was and it helped me. No, tell you the truth, it did. When I first started, and I was looking for these flavors in these different regions. And I was like, yeah, I can get this, but not that. So it's when you're questioning it.
But you can't. Again, you're falling back into the same trap.
But it still gave you something.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You can't. You're like a Trump. You're like a Trump supporter, man. You can't get this. You can't get this out of your head.
All I'm saying is it helps me at first. When you can know what something is and what something is not, you can start telling where it goes.
Balvenie is Balvenie because it's not Glenfiddich. That's why it's Balvenie.
If you look hard enough, you can find 5 space sides that kind of have something that might relate to each other.
And we've done that. I've done that with people, and it's real whiskeys that taste like Space Side is supposed to.
I can find 5 people that maybe have something in common with each other. Okay. They all had hair. Okay. And they had 2 glasses.
Yeah, there's 4 people on this chat that are all wearing glasses.
Right, there you go. Right, yeah.
But Robin, to go back to it, when you're teaching something, you have to get to the base, and you try to get to the simplest, most common base for stuff, especially with math.
It comes from Scotland.
Because a Scottish whiskey is going to taste the same. That's why I started this one, but I'm having a hard time helping people with that too, because It does. You're going with flavor, and we're comparing flavor now instead of regions. But then, what makes this flavor, and why do you think I taste what you taste? If you think I taste Band-Aids, maybe it's not Band-Aids to me; it's something else. And what makes you think you're good enough to tell me that these are the same things and we should be tasting it? As a teacher perspective, if I'm trying to help a friend nail something down, I'm grabbing on to whatever I can. So
Yeah,
right now it's that,
but
but
again-
the tasting wheel is my newest.
But if you're leading them on the wrong path, then you're not helping them. Okay, here's the thing. At the end of the day, Dolph, fuck facts. Tell a fucking story.
Okay.
Tell a fucking story. Learn the fucking story, and guess what? That'll imprint it in the back of their brain where it will never go away. It will never go away, right? You tell people a story. If we told, Rudyard Kipling said, if we told history and stories, we would never repeat it again, right? Because if we tell history and facts, Ken Kesey said, the hell with facts, we need more stories, right? So it's all about telling a story. Tell the story. Find that one little thing about Talisker, right? That's kind of unique to Talisker. Well, first of all, it's the only distillery up on this one island, right, called Skye. And who wouldn't want to go to a place called Skye? Because it's called Skye, But, and they've got worm tubs. There's a big thing. Because you want to get the distinctiveness of Talisker? They've got fucking worm tubs. There's a discussion right there. Let's talk about a worm tub.
Except they chill filter it, and it's a worm tub, which doesn't make sense to me. Why would you chill filter a worm tub?
There you go.
Anyway,
we live in a crazy world.
Robin, is this why maybe Japan does the flavors differently than Western culture? Is this why they do that presentation of flavors in their whiskey versus trying to separate it by geographical regions, which are really bad in some cases?
Well, yeah. So, for example, if you go to Yamazaki, Yamazaki has 12 stills. And they're all different sizes. Now, what are they doing right there? They're essentially creating 6 different distilleries and 12 times 6 different styles in one distillery. So do you think that they're interested in terroir or regionality? No. They're creating a completely different range because they know as a manufactured item, they can do that. That you can do that. And I can change this, and I can change this, and I can change this, and I can tweak this over here. When I walked into that distillery, it was like walking into a temple. It was like, it was so cool. It was so cool, right? But, and it was all, you can hear the hum, of all the machinery. And then every once in a while, a worker would come out and he would check something and check a gauge, check something else, and then they duck back in. But, it was all pretty much automated. And look at the diversity of whiskeys that comes out, because we've never tasted the diversity of whiskey that comes out of Suntory, because it's all drunk domestically, and it's all meant to be a blend. It's all blends, right? So they used Scotland as their, Japan, their spirit godfather is Scotland. So they took all of this from the early days of making Scotch whiskey, when back in the 1920s and the 1900s, 1930s, when all Scotch whiskey was meant to go to blends. That's the only reason you made these malts. That's why you had Dalian over here and Tomatal over here and this over here, and Altmore. They each made a specific style. William Teacher built Ardmore because he wanted to have a consistent source for this one particular style of whiskey that he could only make in that distillery, due to all of the manufacturing processes that they had put together, and some regional affectations. The weather and the water source was at high mineral, low mineral, things like that. But it's a manufactured item, and a manufactured item, you're there to actually redo that, because that's what manufacturing is. This is why manufacturing is not farming.
Yeah.
So when you do that, then I have complete control over how, and this is, it goes back to kind of like the terroir, anti-terroir argument. I've got complete control over that. I can make this anything I want to. And so they do. And that has nothing to do with the area that they're in. The area is actually, when you read David's book, right? David does a real nice job of talking about the Speyside region. Why isn't everything, instead of called Speyside, why aren't they called Glenlivets? Because that's what they originally were. They were all called Glenlivets. And why were they called Glenlivets? It was commercially viable. Rye whiskey was all called Monongahela rye whiskey in the United States because that was where the most popular whiskey came from, was in the Monongahela region where Old Overholt was made. Right? So everybody wanted to start calling their whiskey Monongahela whiskey. It meant nothing. Right? But it's a commercial thing. So the whole thing behind these is we get stuck, and then it's just, marketing takes over, and marketing's just typically lazy. Just lazy,
Robin,
So
just to roll back a little bit, just for clarification for myself, the 12 different stills, are you talking that there's 12 different pairs of stills, or six different
literally
different spirit stills?
There's literally 12 different stills.
Yeah.
But of course they're paired up.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So they're
So
always
they're
paired
paired up.
up, or they can move, they can switch.
Well, there you go. That's exactly right. I didn't get a chance to see the piping underneath, right? But think about this. Some of them were direct fired. Some of them were steam heated. Some of them were plate heated, right? And then you looked at the configurations. They were all over the place, right? Some, very steep, very high line arms, very steep, acute angle, line arms, different sizes. And then they do different fill levels. They're the masters of the technological process. Yeah. So they can make literally anything they want there, which is the idea, so it's very different because commercially it wasn't set up that way in Scotland. It was one distillery makes one style,
and consistently the exact same thing.
Yeah, because it was all about the consistency in order to actually send that to be commercially viable to the blenders. The blenders were looking for consistency, right? Because the whole idea of blending was to solve the consistency problem in the beginning, right? That's what Usher and Walker and all those guys were doing. It was trying to solve the inconsistency issue by blending. And then grain whiskey made it a lot easier to do that with. And so once you now get commercial viability, that map right there, that map has got to be right, because I need to actually now keep making that in the same consistent level. And so I need the supply. But it wasn't until the single malts came in, and then led by the classic malts. And that was the first time you actually started to hear anywhere in anything written down. It's the first time you actually started to see whiskey being considered as a emblematic of a geographical region.
All right,
that's it. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you why. Sorry, let's go back to Scotch, because we just talked about single malts. Let's do use. You've got Bunnahabhain, Aberlour, and I think it was Glenfarclas were your three that you highlighted. Why? Are they your favorite? Was there something?
Because I wrote 10, and I could only get 3.
Okay. Why did you pick the 3 then? Why these 3? And I want you to say because they're from 3 different regions, because that would have been fucking fantastic.
That would have been great. Actually, Aberlour and Glenfarclas are supposed to be Spraysides, right? I'll be honest with you. I think it was more editorial decisions than anything else. I definitely fought for Glenfarclas to be in that because Glenfarclas, I've got my heart's. Yeah, there you go. There's that baby.
It's a family-run business, right? Which I kind of like.
It's family-run. They still direct fire. They've got the oldest whiskey stocks in Scotland, because George Grant's father doubled down during the lock and overproduced. knowing says, this is gonna be temporary, and he was right.
Yeah.
So the family casks go back to the 60s. Which
I
is
finally found a 1969 family cask.
great. Did you really?
Nice.
Well, I'm 69, and I didn't start in this game till about 8 years ago, and I didn't start looking for my birthday bottle till about 3. And everything I found's been around the $8,000-9,000 area. So now $5,000 for a 69 that I found, and it's at a place, Wine and Beyond, which same thing as your Total Wine. And yeah, I don't know if I get 10% off because of the Alberta Scotch Society. So it'd be nice to get $500 off. We'll see.
Yeah. Wow.
I was going to ask the rest of our panel, if you're going to pick 3 scotches, please pick 3 scotches that would tell people about you. They're your favorites, and what does that tell them about you? And does anyone have an answer? Well, let's start with Kent because he's already shown me the Buna. So Buna for 1, Ardbeg 2. Okay, we're on. I'm going to say Isla as a region, and Springbank. So he likes. Now, which Buna was that?
Oh, that's this peated one.
There. So you're all Pete. So you're Mr. Pete. Done.
No. Well, yes, but that's not really peat.
No.
There's no Pete on that. It's all sherry.
It's mostly sherry on that. Not very low.
Springbank is another one I love because
that Kobonic is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's all one business. They've had it forever. They haven't sold out to the man, although maybe they have in a certain way. But I like that.
Well, they have. That's going to go to the town once the owner dies. So.
Right, which is good.
There's your story about Springbank, right?
Amount of the town, right?
So I had applied to get to Springbank's whiskey school for 7 years, 7 fucking years, right? And I can't get in. Finally, I started dropping names, and I wrote a book, and they allowed me to get in, right? So it's kind of it took that much to get in here, and then it was supposed to be back in March, so it got canceled.
Oh. Well, Robin, they were going to work you hard though, too, right? That was the 4-day or the 2-week or 3-week one?
6 day.
6 days.
Yeah.
They were going to work you too. You're going to.
I was ready for it, man.
All right.
I was ready. I was lifting weights.
Nice.
I was doing push-ups. I was like running up and down the hills.
You're getting the monkey shoulder going.
Get the monkey shoulder, right? Yep. I was ready to go.
Excellent. Dave, let's go to you. You have 3 scotches, buddy.
I hate to take one from Robin, but Glen Farkless, because I went to probably one of my first tastings I went to, and I was really nervous, and I didn't like the table that was there. It was really skinny, and all the glasses were there, and the guy asked us all to sit down, and I bumped the table and break 7 glasses right off the bat. Everybody's looking, who's this guy? And I'm picking up busted glass on the aisle, but was it George Grant that he gave the talk? Yep. And the personal connection with the stories he told, I was a fan just because of him. And then I guess
Grant loves his stories too, right? And he usually drinks like 6 beers as he's doing the story. So he's been drinking all day, and then he has a 6-pack as he's talking to you. He gets more colorful as the night goes on. He's fantastic. Do you remember any story specifically?
Oh, I remember the one in Singapore where he got put into jail because he was hungover when he got to the airport. They opened his bags up and he had a block of peat in there, and they thought, well, what's this? Right away he's off to the cooler he goes, and the UK government has to get him out. He gets to the university and he wants to wash up, so he tells the guy, can you heat up that peat so everybody can smell it? He comes out and the peat's actually blazing. He goes, you know how hard it is to catch peat on fire like that? And he yells at the guy, and the guy grabs a glass of what he thought was water, and George yells no, and it was New Make. Well, that thing blew up.
New Make.
And the sprinklers went off. There was 200 guys in the stands. Yeah. I told that story a number of times, but.
See? So Rob, you're right. So people remember it because of the stories.
It's a connection, definitely. Mm-hmm. The other one I really like is Glen Alecky, because Ralphie picked it 2 years in a row. So not really knowing a lot about whiskey, I bought it because Ralphie suggested that was his number one.
All right.
And
So
so
that's
yeah, yeah. And the other thing is I like the Billy Walker story in for Glen Ellicky. And probably I think would have to be, was it Glenmorangie? How do you pronounce that?
Glenmorangie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have the accent. But that was one of the first whiskeys I ever tried, and it was the Signet.
Signet. Yeah.
Signet was
I
nice.
remember taking the lid off the glass and thinking, that's all chocolate.
Yeah.
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 So those
all
three.
tactile experiences with you. It's good.
Yeah.
And the memory. That's a
Yeah.
good one, Dave. Good job.
Yeah, Bill Lumsden. Bill Lumsden's another one of those great storytellers, man. Bill, you know, if from Glenmorangie, if you ever get into an event with Bill Lumsden, I mean, this guy is actually, you got to tame Bill down because he'll start telling some of the dirtiest stories in the world, man. It's great.
That's perfect. It's fantastic. It's what you want to hear. Well, that's what I want to hear. Drew,
When can we bring him online?
YouTube. Drew, Sheila, you're three.
Oh, you want to go?
I'll go first because we don't have the same distilleries. We have very different taste profiles.
Good.
So, no, they're not. I hope not. So, Brooklotti, because I have always had this love of Brooklotti, although Nick will laugh at me because I couldn't identify the Brooklotti bottle. Despite all of the hints that she was dropping, I could not identify the Brooklotti bottle in the blind tasting we've been having.
All we knew is we had it many times.
Aki, because it just absolutely.
Yeah, you've been there and you have a personal connection to it, which is.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that one?
Auchentoshan.
Oh, Auchentoshan.
From Cap. And then it's not that I like the distillery as much as we have a family connection to the distillery, Cardew. Cardew, because if you go far enough back in the family tree, somewhere in my family tree, possibly started the distillery. So there's a familial obligation to like the distillery.
That's perfect.
Cardew's got some great history.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
I am Ardbeg, Lafroig, and a knock.
Ooh, a knock. Yeah. All right.
I can't argue with any of those. I quite like all of them too. But
A knock, they're cutter flounder. Like I love the line that they come out with. It's also the one we got our birthday bottle from. Yeah, I've yet to come across a knock that I haven't loved. Lafroy, between quarter cask and 10, I always have one open. Like always have one open.
makes a great Caesar.
Oh yeah, makes a fabulous Caesar, or Bloody Mary. Replace the vodka with quarter cask and have yourself a Bloody Mary. Top of the line. Then Ardbeg. Well, the cult of Ardbeg. It's the cult of Ardbeg.
All right, you're devoted no matter what.
Yeah.
Done. All right, Nick, you're three.
Bowmore, because of being there and spending the time with my parents there.
Okay.
Glengoyne.
Oh, there's a neat one.
And Belle Blair.
And you Belle Blair. Okay. Why Belle Blair?
Glenn Goyne is that's like one of my secret picks. You know.
Cool.
I've got the 05. I've been looking for the 2 forever. Anyways, Nick, why Belle Blair? Because it's a bit innocuous. People don't talk about Belle Blair all that much.
I got a birthday bottle for myself from Belle Blair, and it blew my socks off. And then Drew and Sheila and I were in Calgary, and they had a bottling of Belle Blair, and it was bananas. And it was all bananas, and you're like, this is whiskey, but it was all bananas. And it's
Banana
just
cream pie type thing.
No, it was bananas, fresh bananas.
Wow.
Okay.
It's such a good bottle. It is amazing.
Interesting.
Nice.
Mr. John Livermore, I would never guess those would be your 3. Comments on the side.
Well, let's put that up
Glenbergie.
with Dr. Don had to say. Glenbergie, Chivas, and Valentine 17. I've got 2 of them. Well, which Glenbergie there, Don? And I'm going to put
I've got
comments up there.
I've got some independent bottlings. I got some signatory of the Glenbergie. That's another beauty.
Okay.
Like that.
All right, that's good. And we're going to talk. Let's switch gears a little bit.
What about Cheryl?
Oh my God! Well, why didn't Cheryl start? She's at the beginning of the alphabet.
Took over.
Smack him and just go. All yours. Cheryl.
My
I'm sorry.
three are definitely Brook Laddie. I'm a lover of Brook Laddie. It's what got me into whiskey.
Yeah.
I love my Deanston.
Okay.
Love my Deanston.
And we have a
It's just-
20-year-old that just came into the city that we're getting to,
Yep.
right? You got that?
Yep.
And Delmar.
You got it.
All
The
together.
Portwood that we did in our tasting. Is that new
Yeah.
or did you like it before our tasting?
I had it before. This is a replacement of my bottle.
All right.
So those are my standard ones that I always go to. Always.
All right. That's good to hear. Robin, if it's not the three that we said before, is there three that you would find your favorite that if you needed out of the 10, if you don't agree with what they put in the book, which three would you have?
Okay, it's three whiskeys, right?
Nope, scotches.
Well, three Scotch whiskeys, but just the whiskeys, right? Not the distilleries, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, no, it could be the distillery because I like 3 or 4 from one. So
Yeah, me too.
Go distillery. As opposed to it at a bottling, go distillery.
Okay. All right. So that Glengoyne, I think, is to me one of the great secrets of Scotch whiskey. You know, so I'm a big fan of Glengoyne, right? I got to go with. I mean, this is how I got. This is how I got.
Yes.
Hooked right here. This was it. Talisker. Anything that comes out of Talisker, is for me is a go-to style. Geez, man, this is man. These are all my children. How are you making me pick my favorite?
And I don't have to. You can stop.
I would have to say, oh boy, this is gonna hurt to say this. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. Quite honestly, it's probably the whiskey that I recommend to people the most, which is Glenfarclas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that would be it. Now, from a bottle perspective, a bottling, it would actually be the 2005 bottling of Compass Box Flaming Heart, which is probably the whiskey I would go onto a desert island with. You know,
that is a very delicious one.
Yeah. It's heavy. It's oily. It's got
spectacular. Just
which might explain why you like Glenfarclas, because maybe you just like that sherry influence in there too, right?
Well, but
no,
I'm not really a sherry guy. You know, as a matter of fact, one of the ways that Glazer and I bonded with each other when I started first working with him was fact we were both, you know, anti-sherry guys, you know, because we felt that the sherry barrel, you know, masked flaws in the whiskey. And so if you really want to kind of get the inside of a whiskey, you have to get out of a ex-bourbon barrel first fill. And but I've progressed, you know, over time. And but the rich, thick, oiliness of the spirit that is Glenfarclas is really, I think, the thing that attracts me initially about it. And then the sherry that just wraps around and integrates into it and becomes a whole. And I think then the third part is there is no better price value on the market than a 25-year-old Glenfarclas.
Yeah.
It's under $200.
I agree. Yeah.
It's a 25-year-old whiskey under $200. Yes. Right there. You know. So, you know, so it hits me on a whole bunch of different levels, you know.
No, and I agree with that, and that's one of mine. And I've got a 25-year-old bin 105 one, so the cat strength 25, which I paid. It was just under $200. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm with you with Glenn Farkless.
There you go.
Yep, that family cat. I got that as well.
Oh, that's a beauty. Yeah.
It is. So Oban, because my father would give me a bottle. That was one of my first, because I got that taster pack of the regions, and I picked Oban as my favorite of those. And my father would give me one every year for either Christmas or my birthday. So, and that was it. That's the link, and that's why it's there for me. So that's one of them. And Ben Diak, one of my favorite bottles and cheapest bottles out there.
Which one is it?
Curiositas, which you actually had to say.
That's
I've got my
fantastic.
two of them. And for us, I don't know how much it is for you, but I get it when I see it. It's usually $65 around.
All right. Yeah.
For a 10-year-old, but it's not just the 10. I just love the flavor of it. And I like the fact that I can give people a peep from Speyside, and that goes back to the regions and shit.
Yeah.
I just give them that. It's like, taste this. Where do you think it's from? It's Speyside. But it's a heather peat. It's a different peat, and you can taste the difference between that and the Isla peats, the Idon peats, the Band-Aid. There's a difference, and I like
big difference. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But everyone had great responses to this, and everyone should buy every one of everything that everyone talked about, because we're all right.
Have you ever had this one? Have you ever had the old Ballantruan? Is that available up there?
Yes.
Yeah,
it is. Independent bottlers.
It's what?
Independent bottlers, indie bottlers. I've got it. So I've
got
got
really? Okay. Because it comes out. This comes out here in the United States in an OB form, but of course there is no OB. It's Tom and Towel.
Yeah.
It's heavily peated.
You have one?
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, very good. Edredor is my third, though. I like the small guys. I do. I like the family guys. I like the small guys.
Way under the radar.
Edredor was also owned by David. Said this, it was owned by the mob or something like that.
Gangster.
Oh yeah, it's a great story. Yeah, it was an American mobster that actually. Oh yeah, it was a fantastic story. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So those are mine. But I like this Edredor. I just like the small guys. I don't know if we could say Glenn Farkless is a small guy. And Naren, for our I'm going to put this up. Naren said this. He's got 4 different tastings in Edmonton. So when George comes to Edmonton, he's well sought after, and every big Vines has them. Whiskey Drops got with them, and so 3 of them, Chateau Louis. And if Dave was around from Keg and Cork, there'd be a 4th one too, but there's 3 of them. So Naren, if you want to come down to Edmonton and break the COVID kind of thing and see them, it's all online. We can send you some stuff.
Naren, come to Edmonton and bring my 2 Brewers bottles with you.
So, Robin, this lady here, Naren, it lives in a place called North Star, Alberta. Now, you think Alberta's north. Now, to go from one end of Alberta to the other, I don't know if you're driving like 20 hours. It's tall going from one end to the other. Maybe north, because the roads are not straight. So you're going. She is so far north. She's our most northerly Alberta Scott Society person, and fantastic. But it's north. When you think Alberta's north, you think Canada's north. This lady is north. Like, way the fuck up there. And cold and dark, and hopefully
she's around 5 hours north of us.
At least 5 hours.
No, 5 hours. 5 hours north of Fort Mac, and Fort Mac's 4 hours from us, right? Or 3 hours.
Okay, it's 9 hours drive.
8 or 9 hours north drive for us.
Well, I thought she was just a little bit north of Fort Mac.
Yeah,
you can't go across though, because you have to come back and then go up.
Hey, Bill.
So far north, we don't know where she is.
Yeah, right.
Robin?
Yeah.
What does YEG mean?
YEG is our airport.
What?
Our airport code, YEG.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So Spirit of Gig is,
I thought that was a directional thing. I guess it is
like LAX or whatever.
Oh yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah.
The airport code.
Okay. So
just like
non-thing type thing. I don't know.
DFW, yeah.
All right,
From my
guys.
house, 5 hours, 56 minutes to North Star.
From here.
Yeah.
From
here.
and Drew, wait. So where do you guys live?
Edmonton.
Edmonton.
You live in Edmonton. Oh,
Well, yeah.
man, and that's pretty far north there, huh?
We are fairly far north, but
Yeah.
there's even more north.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's it. We've done our time. We've put our time in. We've had fun, but the hour's gone by. It's exactly 1 hour and 1 minute now. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna hold our glass up, and we're gonna toast all our people out there. So here's the good company. Here's the good whiskey. Here's the good books. Here's the fantastic conversation with our lovely panel. Here's to seeing you all next week, Saturday, January 23rd, for our it's the very last courses we do. These are courses class 9 and 10 of this book, the comprehensive tasting school in 10 classes. I'm trying.
Hey Dolph, I want you to do the audio version of it, okay?
I would do that. You want me to do? I'm in. And I'll take payment in whiskey. That's all I'm going to do. As a final note, you don't want to miss anything in the future. Like, subscribe, everything. We're going to the after Dram. We're going to have a fantastic time. But ladies and gentlemen, cheers. Sláinte. Thank you very much. See you next week. All that stuff, guys.